Welcome to this telco training, and today we're going to be looking at the second part of internet access. You'll remember that in the last part we had a look at internet access from a local perspective, and in today's training we're going to be having a look at internet access from a global perspective. The purpose of this training is to provide an overview of telco's products and services in a non-technical manner so that everybody in our staff can actually understand them. Just once again, zoom out just to see what telco services are. We've got domain registration and hosting, which we've already addressed, email and web hosting. We've started having a look at internet access, and we're going to look at the second part of internet access today. Then we'll also have a look at virtual private networks, voice over IP, network solutions, and finally content services. Remember that all of what we're talking about is within the framework of what we call telco's four-layer cake. Remember that any network operator such as telco has these four layers. First of all, you have to have a physical infrastructure, and our physical infrastructure is made up of fiber, WiMAX, VSAT, and carrier grade Wi-Fi. On top of the physical infrastructure, you then build what's called a network. The network is really the switching part of the network. It's the language that is spoken over that infrastructure. And the language that is spoken on the telco infrastructure is called IP, or the Internet Protocol. On top of the Internet Protocol, or on top of the network layer, we then build on services. Services are the things that we deliver to customers, such as voice, video, and various kinds of data or text. On top of the services, you can then package the services into what's called content or applications. And some examples of content and applications that are commonly found on an internet network are things like Skype, YouTube, blogs, webs, all sorts of services or content and applications that customers come to the internet to access. So this is the framework within which telco considers that we build our products and services, and it's quite important for you to understand this. So now let's talk about global internet access. You'll remember that we did talk about the fact that when the internet in Zimbabwe is made up of a number of internet service providers and internet access providers, each of which has their own public internet cloud, just like telco. And all of these service providers link together to make up the Zimbabwe internet. Now, if you can imagine and translate that into what happens at a global scale, that's just Zimbabwe, but at a global scale, you'll find that each and every country has the same sort of thing. They have internet service providers and internet access providers, all of who interconnect, interconnect together to make up the local internet in that country. And of course, all of us, in terms of the global internet, must interconnect with each other in order to make up the global internet landscape. So if you think of the Zimbabwe internet landscape and then translate it into South Africa, the USA, India, China, all of these nations have a similar structure to what we have. Maybe they've got more players or less players, but every country has the same structure. And then those internet service providers in country then connect to the global internet through various means and ways, which we're going to look at today. Now, remember that Zimbabwe is a landlocked country, means that we're surrounded by other countries. So how does Zimbabwe gain access to the global internet, as it were? Well, for a very long time, Zimbabwe was accessing its internet through what's called terrestrial microwave, which are, I'm sure you've seen them, these big microwave dishes on these high towers all along the route to Bulawayo, all along the route to Beitbridge and getting out of the country. This is a wireless form of connectivity. The other alternative for getting out of the country was VSAT, which is actually the most common alternative, was VSAT. So you'd see these big dishes called earth stations pointing into the sky, into a satellite that's in the sky, and that would land somewhere in the international market, like in the UK or in the USA, and that would give you access to the international internet. The third option, which is a much newer option, is what's called terrestrial and submarine cable. Terrestrial means cable that runs along the ground, and submarine means cable that runs under the sea. And optic fiber is that terrestrial and submarine cable that's been introduced in recent years. When I say recent years, I mean the last 20, 30 years, to provide that international connectivity. So there's three options to getting out: Earth Station or VSAT, terrestrial microwave, which are the dishes, which is wireless, and then terrestrial and submarine cable, which is under the ground or under the sea. So now, how does Zimbabwe, we know that Zimbabwe's got a lot of terrestrial fiber in country, but how does Zimbabwe now get to access this under the sea fiber cable, which is running all the way around the coast of Africa? Well, let's have a look at this map, which is a map actually that I took off of the Seacom website, because Seacom is a company that provides the under the sea cable that most Zimbabwean companies are tapping into. Seacom is not the only one. There's a number of others. There's Sat3, there's WAX, and a number of other cables that run under the sea and companies that operate them that people tap into. But Seacom seems to be the one that most Zimbabwean companies tap into. Now, Seacom, as you will see, runs all along the east coast of Africa, right down past Tanzania, Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, right down to South Africa, where it has a docking place. It also has a docking place in Dar es Salaam there, and also in Mozambique it does have as well, and right down to the tip of Africa in Cape Town, and all the way around to the west coast as well. So Seacom runs along the east coast of Africa. And then, as you can see, it has a number of docking points on the coast of Africa. And from those docking points, it then comes inland via underground cable as well, or sometimes terrestrial microwave, in order to get into the inland places. In Zimbabwe, we're quite fortunate in that there's now a number of fiber cables that are coming from the coast, mainly the Mozambique side and the South African side, into the interior of Zimbabwe. Also, there's some cables coming via Botswana and some cables coming via Zambia. So this is how international connectivity at the moment seems to be working. And we really want access to the fiber cable because it allows us masses of bandwidth, which wouldn't really be available on the earth stations or VSATs or on the terrestrial microwave. So the key terms that you need to remember in relation to when you're talking about global internet is obviously the internet itself, which is a network of networks of networks. So it's a network of local networks connected to international networks. The other term that you need to know and understand is internet service provider. Usually that's the person who takes the internet from the wholesale side and delivers it to a customer. But also there's another term called IP transit provider. An IP transit provider is someone who takes responsibility for delivering internet from the under the sea cable or from the international global internet, and takes the responsibility of delivering it to other internet access providers and other internet service providers. So that's an IP transit provider, someone who takes responsibility of taking the internet from international destinations and delivering it to ISPs and IAPs for a wholesale price. So that's an IP transit provider. I hope you've learned a little bit more about how global internet gets delivered into Zimbabwe.